Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Superior Bryce 98, and today we are going to do the first episode of the XD podcast. Today I have with me J Brown 03,
What's up, everybody?
and today we're going to talk about basically what went wrong with xdefiant. Why it's shutting down, and basically the missteps that it took in its lifespan. But first, I'm going to let Jaden go first because he has a lot more to say than I do, especially since he put more hours into the game than I did. So I feel like he has a much more stronger opinion than I do. But Jaden, what do you think went wrong with xdefiant as a whole?
I think that it was targeted towards the wrong audience. It, to me, it's instead of being targeted towards the Call of Duty audience, it should have been targeted towards the first-person shooter genre audience. That way, you can branch out to other people, not only just to associate with this part of the community that you don't like, because not games like Hello Neighbor, for example's audience, the main audience that they're trying to go after doesn't even like Hello Neighbor itself. So, but they have the people who like the alphas, who's the real Hello Neighbor audience. They don't go after it. So my thing is, they targeted towards the wrong audience who don't really like the game. I think the approach is cool, saying that you're the Call of Duty killer, but you should have been prepared, knowing that Call of Duty is a huge franchise as a whole, and you really just should have targeted towards the first-person shooter brand as a whole. That way you would have had more numbers and more people would have tried your game out. And if they didn't like it, they can go back to their game. But at the same time, I think targeting it towards the audience that don't like your game way too much, which is what we'll get into later, but I think you had a misstep in that.
I agree. I like that statement you made about what the developer said, quote unquote, the Call of Duty killer. First of all, that is very ambitious to be your first your first shooter, and you're trying to compete against a juggernaut like Call of Duty. My thing was, I think they should have waited. I think the game should have been put in the oven a lot longer than it should have. I think the game came out too early, because I think what should have happened was they should have waited to see what people disliked about Black Ops 6, and I'm only using Black Ops 6 because it was the most recent Call of Duty. They should have waited to see what they disliked about that game, and then capitalized on it heavily and released xdefiant, so that way it's like, oh, you guys don't like this about Call of Duty Black Ops 6? Well, we don't have that in xdefiant. Come play our game, That's what I think should have happened. Another thing is, I think the biggest problem was that they overpromised and underdelivered.
I'm taking over for this one, but yeah, I do agree they over the promise and under deliver. But the thing is that when you're trying to go after a huge name as Call of Duty, you gotta be prepared for the things. I know the xdefiant team is a small team. It's a small team in general. I don't know if they got more numbers over the years, like Splitgate did. But the thing is, they had a less team. They didn't have a big team like Call of Duty did. Call of Duty is a team with thousands upon thousands of organizations, and they're just all capitalizing on the next game's Call of Duty mistake. But another thing is, xdefiant could have killed Call of Duty twice, and it didn't. So when xdefiant was in its first beta, it was stated to have more maps than Modern Warfare 2. That is a crazy feat, because people were very upset with Modern Warfare 2 to the point that they were going back to Warzone 1, and then when they shut down Warzone 1, what happened? They didn't want to play Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 3 came out. What happened? They didn't like it. Why? Because it had so many different content. I mean, not different content. I'm sorry. It had so many recycled content and nothing new. The campaign was a mess because they all recycled content from Warzone and not campaign. Then we had all the same guns from past Call of Duty games. The thing is, Modern Warfare 3 had nothing new to offer, and then people wanted to go back and play xdefiant. When xdefiant came out, there was nothing there. It had so many problems upon arrival, to the point the first patch was that the matchmaking didn't even work. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
The matchmaking didn't even work. So, saying this as a guy who put, I think 1,000 hours into it, it's really heartbreaking to see the game that had so much build-up promises and could have been a really heavy hitter in the shooter genre. But I think instead of targeting it towards Call of Duty, as I said earlier, it should have been targeted towards majority of the first-person shooter genre. So Halo, Half-Life, Doom, it targeted towards everybody. So Fortnite was successful because it didn't have Never mind. I'll talk about Fortnite later, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, I agree. But you said that Call of Duty has, Activision itself, Treyarch, Sledgehammer, whatever, Infinity Ward. They have a lot of developers, right? Mm-hmm. That could be a bad thing as well. You ever hear the term "there could be too many cooks in the kitchen"?
Yeah.
Right. So xDefiant having a small team isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you look at
no, it's not a bad thing because Splitgate. Because remember, Splitgate 1 was made by 4 people, and they had a Forge mode before Halo Infinite did. So.
Right. That's what I was saying. Okay, let's go off that example. The example was Splitgate 1 adding a Forge mode before Halo did, and then you have a game like freaking Concord that was in development for 8 years. 8 years. It only had a 2-week life cycle, and Sony lost millions of dollars in that game versus a game like Astrobot with only 65 developers at Team Asobi, and the game sold like hotcakes and then got Game of the Year. So I don't think the issue was the development, the size of the development team. I think, I'm contradicting myself because now
because Astrobot, you said 65 people. Astrobot had more members than Splitgate and. Astrobot had more members than Splitgate and xDefiant combined.
Well, no, I was comparing Astrobot and Concord.
Yeah, but still, what would you rather? What's bigger, 65 or 4? 4 is not comparable to 65. Four people made a Splitgate Forge mode before Halo Infinite, and people loved it. You can go on the Splitgate right now and get a map made by Forge developers. And while we're on the topic of Forge, I tweeted at the xDefiant devs, put a map editor and a game mode editor. Here's why. When you're solely focusing on one thing such as netcode for the entire game's life cycle, a little reference from the last video I made, but if you're focusing it on way too much, when you have nothing to deliver, you're going to eventually lose people. This is why Halo Infinite, I'm gonna choose Halo Infinite for this example. Halo Infinite came out with a lot of promises. People loved it. It had 30 million people at launch. It killed both Battlefield 2042 and Call of Duty Vanguard that year. And what did they do? Oh, they scrapped split screen for cosmetics that no one bought. You weren't progressing the game forward because you spent too much time doing something that nobody was interested in, and on top of that, you were wasting resources for something that nobody was going to put money into. So what this did was, the players started going down, and then people didn't like Season 2, and then Halo Infinite said, and people say, oh, Halo's dead, and then Season 5, what happened? Oh, cross-core customization, AI's in Forge mode for the first time since never. And then what happened? People started playing Halo Infinite again. Spirit of Fire, people were hyped over it. Now, this is what xDefiant could have did. You could have had community-made content to keep the game fresh every once in a while, but maybe because you were having trouble with the camera, such as things, it was a little hard to do. So my point is that you would have never ran out of content, and you would have kept the game fresh. And when you have people like, when you have game modes like Infection, or these game modes like Team Deathmatch, you can make them into custom games. And if you like it, I'm looking at you, Ubisoft. If you like the game mode, you can actually put them on the playlist themselves. And then people will like them, and then they will appear more and more often. Then the game would have been fresh. Or if people said, oh, you know what, I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of the game modes. Well, you can just have a feature where, turn off the community made content and only have development made content. Right? Mm-hmm. Titanfall 2 did this, even though they didn't have the map editor, like multi-queuing. Actually, never mind. xDefiant did have multi-queuing. What am I talking about? But my point is, you would have never ran out of content. People at the moment are tired of Black Ops 6 content. They're complaining about the Terminator skin right now. They don't like anything that's coming in any of their contests. They always complain about a broken weapon here and there. But if they eventually get tired of Call of Duty's content, they could just play xDefiant. You would have actually had Call of Duty shivering, because now this is why Fortnite creative is successful, because there's thousands upon thousands of creative maps such as box fights, zone wars, hide and seek, prop hunt. I can go on and on. And people just love creative. They love creative so much to the point that they even made maps with XP glitches. I'm not saying that I do that, but there's so much variety within creative, and it kept Fortnite fresh. People still kept playing it. My problem is that you had nothing to deliver, and you were focusing on something for the entire game's life cycle to the point that the game died, which I think the netcode is now fixed in Season 2. But guess what? When that happened, nobody wanted to play it.
Right. That's actually a good perspective to have. I think the biggest problem is timing, right? Everything's about timing when it comes to video games, because what happened to xDefiant kind of happened to Titanfall 2. Now, hear me out. Titanfall 2 is an excellent game. Like, we all know that. That game was excellent. But what happened was, it came out around the same time as Battlefield. And Battlefield is a well-established IP by EA. But somehow, in some way, Respawn and EA weren't communicating in the kitchen, right? I mean, they released they released a juggernaut like Battlefield, and then released a fairly new IP like Titanfall 2. And then it kind of got overshadowed. And then when Apex came out, that's when everybody became more interested in the Titanfall lore. Because, Battle Royales were hot at the time when Apex came out. And then I'm just like, where were you guys when Titanfall 2 came out? Like, that game was OD. And I think Ubisoft is following the same problem because, even without xDefiant, if you look back at Hyperscape, right? That's what it's called?
Yeah.
Hyperscape. I played that game for a little bit, but what happened was it died because it wasn't, as good as Apex or Warzone, or in Fortnite even, like at the time the Battle Royales were like hot. It couldn't keep up with those games. And I think the problem with xDefiant right now, or at least what happened to it again, is timing. They released it at a bad time. They should have waited to see when people, like I said before, they should have waited to see what people didn't like about Black Ops 6 and then capitalized on that and then brought the game out. Ubisoft's thing is always bad timing. Even with Assassin's Creed Shadows, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying, people have been asking for Assassin's Creed to be out in feudal Japan for years. And I mean years. And then they finally did it because they saw how successful Ghost of Tsushima was. But guess what? Ghost of Tsushima beat you to the punch. And, it wasn't... For me, it didn't capture that same essence as Ghost of Tsushima did. So that was kind of like why I didn't get Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm getting kind of sick and tired of these samurai games. But I know I'm getting off topic. But my point is Ubisoft's timing is just off. Like the same thing with Horizon Zero Dawn. Like the Horizon curse, for those of you that know what I'm talking about, but for those of you that don't, Horizon is a very good action RPG. The first one came out the same week, literally the same exact week as Breath of the Wild and the Nintendo Switch coming out. And Horizon Forbidden West came out the same month or same week or something like that as Elden Ring. And, people love Dark Souls type games, right?
Let me take over for a sec. So you say their timing is bad. I think xDefiant had a great timing. It had two great timings. So you missed out in 2023 because people hated... As I said earlier, you hated Modern Warfare 2.
Okay.
They're stuck on this Modern Warfare 2 engine for now. And it got so bad to the point that they had to... Remember when they said they weren't going to release a Call of Duty title in 2023? Yeah. So they made Modern Warfare 2, a game that didn't have movement, and people hated it because it was too campy. And the movement sucked, and it wasn't comparable to Modern Warfare 2019. What happened? They made Modern Warfare 3, and they hated it because there was no new content. Well, they like Modern Warfare 3 now, but like when it was out, which I know because I played it, no one liked it. No one liked the campaign. People say it had the worst campaign, and it was a $70 DLC for nothing. Now, fast forward to April 2024, xDefiant came out, and actually, no. xDefiant had a second beta. And they had to delay it because it didn't get approved by third-party companies. So their timing was perfect with xDefiant. It's just it was the equivalent of getting a appetizer at a restaurant, but you didn't get your main meal until the restaurant closed down.
Okay.
So the point with this is that you should have, your timing was perfect. You just under delivered. Now we could talk about the core gameplay next, but let's see what Bryce has to say. Oh yeah, by the way, Titanfall 2 is in a good state now. It's just EA just don't care about it like they used to. But I can make a whole nother video about that.
Yeah, I agree. The major problem is that they overpromised and underdelivered. I don't remember which live stream it was, but I remember them trying to add Search and Destroy to the game for the longest, and the reason why they didn't is because they couldn't figure out the technology to add the camera for when you die in Search and Destroy and you can watch your other teammates. They were really struggling with that. I don't know if the game has that right this very second, but it does have it?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, if it didn't have that, that's a problem. That's a major problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because they needed, I think they needed help developing that and implementing that into the game. They couldn't figure out that technology behind that.
Sorry, Bryce. Well, I'll get back to you in a second. But I heard that infection was supposed to be added, and they never did it until the game it never happened. Your game just died, and it never happened. Now, we can talk about why xDefiant died, like what the community's response is. I don't think xDefiant really had a community because it was solely focused on other people's IPs and other communities from those IPs that they have to see, oh yeah, it's the first expectation. If you like the game, no. If you didn't like it, yeah. But I understand xDefiant is a free-to-play game, but at the same time, they really kill a gem for me.
That's kind of a crazy statement. You said they killed the gem? Yeah, man. I mean, the game had potential. I mean, it really did.
Had a lot of potential.
Yeah, I mean, it was created by ex-Call of Duty devs. You see that a lot in the industry. A lot of ex-devs of well-known and or highly regarded games leaving to make their own game. And that's what xDefiant did. I think xDefiant was a swing and a miss, so to speak, right? It was a very ambitious game, like I said before, calling it the Call of Duty killer. That's a very ambitious statement coming from a small team that you just created. And, I don't think, obviously, everybody knew it wasn't killing Call of Duty, right?
It was.
What's the key? The key word in that sentence is was, right? Was. But then as soon as Black Ops 6 came out, everybody jumped ship. Like, it's like a cycle, right? And that's like the thing with live service games. Like, at least for me, what they'll do is they'll obtain, right? They'll obtain you for a short period of time, and then when something else comes out, you go to the other game. Like that was the issue for me. That was the issue with multiverses, and I think that's why multiverses died. I know this video is about multiverses, but I think xDefiant is kind of on the same boat. But multiverses team, going back to the team size, I think the team wasn't large enough to keep up with the overwhelming demand of the game, because everybody's like, "Oh, this is the Smash killer. This game's gonna annihilate Smash Brothers." No, it did not. It definitely did not.
Oh yeah, and I don't think xDefiant advertised it as the Call of Duty killer. I think it was the Call of Duty people who say it was the Call of Duty killer because that's like if I pull you into a dance floor saying that you know how to dance because you know the two-step, and you're thinking you could take on a world-class dancer. But the thing is with this is that you said that. What did you say?
I said the team.
No, not the team before that.
I said that. I don't know what I said. I forgot what I said. I have no idea. But I'm kind of just talking off the top of my head. But.
So you said that they had an opportunity to kill Call of Duty, or it was the Call of Duty killer. So let me take you back for a second. Modern Warfare 2 came out, and people were disappointed about it. They said that, xDefiant has more maps than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 at launch. That is crazy, because that's a beat. You said, okay, you advertised it as it had more maps than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 at launch. And then people were disappointed with Modern Warfare 3 because it was recycled content. And people hated those two games so much that they wanted xDefiant immediately. And then you say you didn't want xDefiant, or xDefiant didn't come out because it didn't get approved by third-party companies that made those games. fine. But the thing is, if you're going to give us an appetizer, give us the full course meal. So you say that the team, when this game gets big, they go on and shift on to the other things. Fortnite, OG Fortnite, for example. I'm not talking about the one now, but like when it came out in 2017, 2018, and a little bit 2019, here's what happened. We had season 1. It was the Battle Royale playlist because Save the World was not putting it up. And what game inspired Fortnite? PUBG. So people came to Fortnite, and Fortnite just kept putting updates upon updates. Season 2, we had, season 1, we had the Halloween update. Season 2 came out, and then we had the Christmas update. Season 3, we had 50v50. That was season 2, but we had 50v50, rockets. We had all these game modes. We had a Thanos playlist in season 4. We had great battle passes. It was just, they always knew how to keep the community fresh. They always updated the game, and they always retained the audience from the next update. Even though sometimes the players drifted out, that didn't matter. When season 3, I think Fortnite's biggest point was not season 2. I think it was season 3 because everyone, and I mean everyone was playing Fortnite. And then season 4 came out, the hype was crazy, and then they added upon updates upon updates upon updates. They added the sprays. They added new gliders. They added new locations. Fortnite always knew how to keep the game safe. The problem with modern day video games or modern day live service games is that they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to get the content above what they came at launch.
And you know why Marvel Rivals is what it is and where it's always been since launch? Why it's always...
Because they're adding superheroes?
No. It's always in the top 5 in Twitch. It's always being played because every last character in that game that's come out and has been out since launch is free. That's why people play Marvel Rivals, because the game doesn't force you to spend money. You know what I'm saying? Like, the only thing that you spend money on are the skins and whatever else, like the cosmetics. So, like, you're only spending money on cosmetics, right? Most live service games, and I'm looking at you, Multiverses, you have to pay for everything else, like the characters, like everything that would be essential to be playing the game, right? I mean, xDefiant, you didn't have all the operators, or that's what we're calling them, operators?
No, xDefiant, you had them.
Yeah, so you didn't have all of the operators at launch, right? I mean, you had the operators, but you didn't have all factions. You didn't have all their abilities. Right? I mean, you could buy them, right?
No. You have to earn them. In xDefiant, you have to... If you wanted a faction, let's say DedSec from Watch Dogs, you have to do the challenges. Okay. And then they added something, and they added character progression in that Season 3 update that's no longer being supported because, xDefiant is shutting down, but they added to where you can level up your characters and get bronze, silver, gold. They made it to where you can level up your factions, and you can do these challenges to get DedSec or the Rainbow Six faction. That's cool, and then you have a second option where you could buy them.
Oh, okay, but how long did that take to actually unlock it without paying for it?
I don't know. It didn't take me a long time.
But see, that's the issue with it's not even just gamers, humans. Everybody wants instant gratification. That's why they spend money on these, characters and cosmetics and stuff like that, because they don't want to put in the work. They want the results. They want results with no effort. That's society. Everybody wants instant gratification with no effort.
I don't think so, because that's the whole thing of the Battle Pass at the time. The Battle Pass was that, remember loot boxes? Mm-hmm. Loot boxes were illegal. Because kids were gambling. Yeah. It resulted in gambling. People were gambling. So what they did was that they made the Battle Pass so players could earn, they could buy, they're getting money, and they can play the game and earn the cosmetics. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, that's what Halo Infinite was trying to target it towards. You could play the game and earn rewards. So it resulted in playtime. That's why some of these newer games don't get enough playtime, because there's nothing. I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at you, Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, you had nothing to grind for at all, and then the content you were getting in return didn't even match what you had. So once you played the campaign, even MK1, what did you have after you beat the story mode? Oh, Invasion sucked. Combat League, the meta, nobody liked the meta. It was the chip meta. Remember that? You should know that.
Yeah.
It was the chip meta. Nobody liked to play it. So it left your game at a point where there was no content that was interesting enough to keep your audience. Now, which is going back to what I said, how the community needs to start making their own content once the developers don't deliver in that time. So if you want games like Halo 3, if you want to play games like Halo 3 has the developer made maps, which everyone plays, Slayer, Capture the Flag, and then you have these games like Duck Hunt, Left 4 Dead, all these other game modes made by the community, and people love those games, and then it kept the game fresh. The problem with xDefiant was that it didn't keep the game fresh and long enough, and they didn't deliver that much, and it took so long for them to deliver. The gap between preseason and season 1 is like this.
Yeah, it was a wide gap.
That's what happened with Halo Infinite. The gap was too long. But Fortnite, I'm going to go back to Fortnite. They did a good job. What did they do? They had in-season updates. I don't know why they don't do this now, but they had in-season updates such as vending machines, guided missiles, Blitz, 50v50, not Team Rumble, but Team Rumble, nobody plays Team Rumble, but Teams of 5. There was just so many that Fortnite had to offer, and the gameplay loop was so fun. It was fun at the same time, and the Battle Pass was actually a grind, but not so tedious. That's something that these newer games don't understand. And they're failing to deliver in time because I feel like they don't have nothing else to offer. Or they don't know what to offer.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I kind of hit all the points as far as going over what was wrong with xDefiant. I don't really have anything else to say.
What about the gameplay?
What
about gameplay?
The gameplay?
Yeah, I want to talk about the gameplay.
I mean, I like the gameplay. I think my favorite faction was. I like
Cleaners?
Who?
Cleaners.
Cleaners, yeah, I like the cleaners because you just throw that firebomb on the ground and you can stop somebody from trying to chase you. You could walk into a room with a bunch of people that's camping or whatever, or holding out an area. Boom, firebomb all day, triple kill, right? That drone, it was alright. I mean, I thought the firebomb was better, but the cleaners is cool. I think at launch, I don't know how it is now, but at launch the Phantoms are kind of broken. Especially since they have their passive is that they have 120 health.
I think the Phantoms had answers. They had answers.
They had answers to what?
They had answers to their big health because Echelon could do things to them. Libertad's ultimate had answers to the bubble shield, even though it could have got one-shotted. Echelon had answers to a lot of things. DedSec had answers to a lot of things. I think Titanfall 2, there was a lot of answers to something. The problem is, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like people were too quick to complain rather than understand how the things work. So, what did you not like about the gameplay? What are your things that you don't like
about the gameplay? I didn't like DedSec, the spider. I know they nerfed it, but when I was playing, that thing was so overpowered, son. It's you could run away from it, and then you jump over it, whatever. You do whatever you can to avoid it, but somehow, some way, it'll still catch you, and then now you're a target. You're super vulnerable when that spider's on your face, electrocuting you, and then you're just dead, right? The maps, I wasn't too big on the maps. There was only 2 maps that I really liked in this game. The map where it's the construction area in the middle, and then you have the buildings you can walk to. I hated that map. That map was just so bad to me.
I like that map actually.
I didn't like the map where it was
it was snowing in that map.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that map though.
Okay, that's one map I didn't like. I didn't like the map with the I think it was from Ghost Recon or something like that, maybe Splinter Cell, where it's you're in that HQ, that headquarters, and you're walking into that room, and then you got the hallway with
that's Echelon HQ.
Echelon HQ. I didn't like that. Depending on what game mode you played on that map, it was not good. Domination, everybody was just camping at B. They had all their gadgets set up so you can't get the base. You know, it was just I wasn't a big fan of the maps. I thought the maps were kind of like meh.
Arena, in my opinion, was the best map because it was fast paced, high speed invasion from Sparking Zero. But what I was saying was the maps were really good. I liked some maps like the one Bryce hates, the Echelon HQ. I despise Mayday. I think Mayday is the worst map in the game. I think the snipers were good on that map, but playing the map was so annoying. Like, I'd rather eat three chunks of my own toenails if I could, rather than play that map. But the point was, I think Arena was the best map because it just had everything. It was good on every playlist. Hot Shot was good until Team Deathmatch came out. The thing is, I think what killed xDefiant was that there was too many people complaining about certain things. So they said, "Oh, I don't want to toot my own horn that much, but let me explain." People say that, "Oh, I don't like the jumping in xDefiant because it's too hard to track." So my thing is, why don't you learn how to go over it? People say, "Oh yeah, because it's a casual game or because there's no skill-based matchmaking, it doesn't mean there's rules to follow in the game." Just because you play a game of Halo, just because you play Halo that's not ranked, doesn't mean you're not gonna go in a BR fight and strafe side to side, right?
Yeah.
Just because you play football and you're not in the NFL doesn't mean that you can't play football by the rules. Everything has rules to follow, and that's something that majority of people who played xDefiant didn't understand. Maybe some people did, but like when you nerf these things so much, it's too hard, movement's too hard. Oh yeah, it's so sweat. People are literally messaging me because I was sweating. I'm like, huh? No, I'm not the best player ever. I can play the game good, but and I'm not tooting my own horn once I said again, because I struggled in the beta, and so I adjusted my settings and learned it. So my thing is, the developers need to start understanding like when is it time to like tone down something and when is it time to get good. So for example, Halo's core gameplay, Halo, the community made the strafing. Halo wasn't meant to be played like that. I might be wrong, but that's what I think. Halo wasn't meant to be side to side strafing. No, the community found that out. Really good players found that out. And what happened? It got embedded within the core gameplay of Halo BR fights. Right?
Yeah.
It got embedded within Halo's core BR fights. My problem was, that's the same thing with xDefiant. Nobody wanted to learn how to adapt to the jumping in xDefiant. So what that resulted in, people were going on Twitter saying, "Oh, nerf the jumping, nerf the jumping, nerf the jumping," and then it got so bad to the point that even some people say, "Whoa, maybe you're nerfing the jumping too much." They nerfed the jumping too much. They added flinch to the. Well, okay, they added flinch to the snipers, but how many times are you gonna nerf the sniper? They basically nerfed the snipers in every patch. Some people needed to start learning how to adapt to that, because now things are getting too underpowered. That's why these new games are starting to get boring, because there's nothing, there's no chaos within it. There's no skill gap to overcome. When people wanted to get the number 1 victory royale, it showed that you were good. People wanted something to go over. People wanted something to go after. So, Fortnite, for example, they added something called simple edits. It wasn't targeted towards people who, play Fortnite. It was targeted to give people the significant edge. I think the thing that these developers need to start understanding is that they need to start bridging the gap between let's tone things down to giving. There's toning something down and giving something are completely two different things. So if you want to tone something down, I'm gonna use what's an overpowered item in any video game that you know of?
In any video game?
All right, let's use. We can use a hero shooter too. Modern Warfare, Warzone. The Kilo was, I think the Kilo ran the first meta ever in Warzone, right?
I think so. I remember people were using it for it.
There was nothing in Warzone 1 that could counter the Kilo. Because the Kilo was running over the meta so much. So what happened was they nerfed it. Because everyone was using it. Fast forward. Now when they giving somebody a significant edge. Like, oh, this guy has... Because you get shot by a Kilo, you can make the player with a pistol, or make the guy who's not good at the game run a pistol and do as much damage as a Kilo. That's giving. I think the fact that they're giving too much destroys the learning curve of any game, of any player versus player game, PvP.
Right.
I might go in depth in the next podcast, but that's my biggest problem. I think the core gameplay was good. The hit detection was bad. It was kind of off. Netcode was off. Maps were good. I hated some maps. I like some maps too. But I think these games need to start focusing less on like what these players need and what they need to start doing to get better at the game.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think this would be a good place to end it. We pretty much hit all the points. I think that's what happened to xDefiant. You can leave in the comment section what you think happened to it that we didn't mention. Give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff to help us move up in the algorithm, on our first episode. So before we leave, what do you have to say to the people, Jaden?
You can follow my YouTube channel, which is going to be uploaded on, and you can follow my TikTok as well, which is jhypes xxjhypes. And I'll catch you later, Bryce.
See you later, alligators or crocodiles, whatever you prefer.